Hi, my name's Justine McKenna, and today I'm going to take you through some employability skills for career success. Acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the Macquarie University land, the Wallumattagal clan of the Darug Nation. We pay respects to the elders and acknowledge elders who have and continue to share their wisdom and knowledge, nurturing and sustaining our environments, cultures, and education. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through a range of slides. There's some detail on the slides, so you can always refer back to them. But ultimately, just to give you a high-level overview of some of the resources and things to be aware of as you transition from your degree into looking to career-related employment. And if you want to know more or you've got any questions there, I've got some slides at the back as to where you can go for extra help. The career service on campus is available for you for 18 months after you've completed your course. So there's lots of services you can continue to tap into throughout your beginning of your early career journey. So what we're going to do first is promoting yourself to employers. So applications, interviews, that kind of bit that people often find quite overwhelming initially. So starting off with the job search. There's lots of jobs out there, they're just not all advertised. And the trick here is that you need to try and tap into those jobs, find out where they are advertised, where they are, in order to kind of make contact with an employer and get yourself or your resume into the hands of the people who are going to be making the decisions. So basically, you can look on the internet, you can look, there's some useful job sites there that you can start with. You can also look on companies' own websites. A lot of companies will post there. There's opportunities to look for jobs through LinkedIn. You can let people know what you're looking for. You never know who, even people in your course might know of an opportunity they can share with you. Other Macquarie alumni are often a good source of information. I'll show you how to tap into them in a few slides. Recruitment agencies can also be a good opportunity. Keep in mind here that this isn't something you should pay for. These agencies will find work or may have work that you can apply for, and they pass the fees on to the employer who takes you. So if you were on a contract, for example, they might pay you $40 an hour, and the company who hires you might pay an extra $10 directly to the recruitment agent to cover their fees, because ultimately, if you're on a contract, the recruitment agent is the one who's managing your superannuation and the administration and all that kind of thing. So the company isn't necessarily taking $10 out of your wages. They're paying an extra $10 in fees to the recruitment agent. So ultimately, it shouldn't cost you any money. They can also be good because sometimes they have an opportunity to know of where opportunities might be coming up that they can tap you into as well. If you're going to a recruitment agency, somewhere like Hayes is a big one, it's better that you stick with one or two. Try not to go to too many, because what can happen is they can all be putting you forward for similar jobs, and that becomes really confusing for the organization. And so then they don't take you because they're not sure which recruitment agent to deal with. So it's better if you just stick with one or two, get to know them well, and let them kind of help you on your journey if that's something that you're interested in. A lot of people find that just by actively talking to people, joining networking events and things like that, and starting to connect with people in the industries that they're interested in is a great way to create opportunities, or again, find ways to get into an organization or in a supporting role that may then let you jump to the role that you really want in a couple of months' time. On campus, we've got a service called Macquarie Student Employment Service. They're also able to help you with some roles. They get jobs all the time. Sometimes they're part-time, casual, full-time, really varies. But if you register with them, then if something that they think would be relevant to you pops up, they'll contact you and let you know. So they are on the Employability Connect website, which I'll show you later. And again, they're a free service, and it doesn't cost you anything. They can also help you prepare for jobs and give you ongoing feedback through a recruitment process so that you can learn some extra skills and hopefully increase your chance of success. Okay. If you're starting to look for work and you're starting to look for opportunities, the first thing people will say to you is send me a copy of your resume. So it's really important that you have a copy ready to go. And you've probably all got a resume, but now's a really good time to review it. Make sure you've got your skills in it. It's really important that you highlight the skills that are related to the opportunities that you're interested in. So you might have two different resumes if you're interested in two quite different roles, because a lot of companies don't read your resume in full initially. They'll put it through an artificial intelligence system, and it's designed to pick up the key skills that they're looking for in that role. So if you don't have those skills written in your resume, the system won't pick you up and you won't progress to the next round. If you're not sure what to put here, go and have a look at some jobs on the internet. Go and look at Seek or Indeed or somewhere like that. Have a look at some job ads, get a sense of the skills and other activities they might be interested in, and where they're relevant to you, put them in your resume. We're looking at things like Excel skills, communication skills, problem solving, ability to work in a team, things like that. Or if possible, don't just list the skills, make sure you expand on it and provide examples. But that's probably one of the most important things in your resume, is to really make sure that you've got those skills in there. Talk about your employment experience, whether it's in internship, unpaid, paid. It doesn't even matter if it's not directly related to what you're wanting to apply for, as long as you can really talk about the skills that you developed in that opportunity and tie it into, relate those skills to the role that you are now applying for. You don't have to put interest in things like that unless it's related to the role. So some people, for example, might be volunteering in a particular area, or they might be helping coach a kid's soccer team where there's a lot of like liaison and team management roles, and they might use it as an opportunity to show their extra management skills, their ability to work with parents and negotiate times for training and all that kind of stuff, that they might in some instances be able to relate that to a role. But again, keep it really specific. You've only got 1 to 2 pages to play with here, and the more examples you can use, the better. The higher level you can make it, the better. Make sure you really research the opportunities that you're applying for. If an employer gets a resume and it's really generic and it sounds like it could have gone to any job or any organization, they're often not going to be interested in going any further with it. If you can really show what it is about that organization that interests you, what skills you've got that match, what values you've got that match, what projects they're working on that really interest you, or that you can show that you've got, an extra interest or experience in, that's going to really make you stand out. And the only way you can really promote that match is to make sure you've done the research to find out exactly what that organization does and exactly what kind of things they might be looking for in the application process. Got an example. We had an organization on campus and they were looking for a PhD student. They didn't mind what the area was in of study. They just wanted the research skills of a PhD student. And so they advertised to all students, and they said they had 16 applicants. They offered 16 interviews, and only one person had gone to the effort of really finding out what that organization did, what their values were, a little bit more about their organizational structure, the projects they were working on, and things like that. And the organization told us that that was the person they took. They weren't necessarily the best at interview, but they'd shown that they were genuinely interested in that company, and that was what they were wanting. So that's the person who was offered the role. Cover letters. This is an interesting topic because some organizations aren't wanting a cover letter anymore. unless the job ad specifically says, don't send a cover letter, I'd suggest that you do. The reason for that is it's another opportunity for you to really promote yourself in relation to that particular role. Cover letter is only one page. It shows you written communication skills, but it also gives you the opportunity to have at least a paragraph on why you want that job with that organization. Again, it takes research and it takes time to write that paragraph, but it's really worth your while doing that. So a cover letter is something that is an additional page to your resume. But like I said before, really check the job requirements, because if they say, please don't send a cover letter, then don't send it. If they say, make sure your resume is maximum 2 pages, then make sure that that's the standards that you're following. So let's assume now you've got your application in and then you've got to the interview process. The interview process is an opportunity for you to learn more about the organization, but it's also an opportunity for them to learn more about you and how you'd fit in the organization. So a bit of a two-way process here. And there's often 4 main types of questions. Open questions are a good way to for an employer to start a conversation or an interview, and tell me about yourself or tell me why you've applied for this role can be quite common. I'd suggest that that's a question that you really practice. And if you've got no idea where to start on this one, go and Google elevator pitches. And an elevator pitch is normally something that you could say about yourself in about 2 minutes, tailoring it to the opportunity, for example. And there's lots of guided templates into how to write an elevator pitch. And if you have a practice of writing that, then that can be adapted to these questions. Tell me about yourself. Why have you applied for the role? Things like that. So they're a really good introductory question to practice on. Behavioral questions, which is the next category here, is often where most of the questions come from. It's tell me about a time when you had to use your communication skills. How did it go? What would you do differently next time? Tell me about a time when you worked in a team. Things like that. They're asking for situations that you've been involved in the past to get a sense of how you might behave or interact with others or manage others in the future. So behavioral questions, you've really got to have some really good examples. And I'll go through that with you in a minute, because that's the biggest thing you could do for interview practice, is to really start to collect your examples. Situational questions and closing questions depends on the interviewer. You might get a mix of those. But again, if you've practiced your open and behavioral questions, you're probably going to find the other categories pretty easy to adapt your answers to. So this is what's called the STAR technique. Some graduate employers will actually say, can you answer this question using the STAR technique? And this technique is really good for those behavioral-based questions. So the question, tell me about a time when you demonstrated effective written communication skills. I'll give you a chance to read through the answer. So as you can see in this example, STAR, situation, task, action, and result. The situation, task, and result are fairly similar in size, but the bulk of what you're talking about is the action, what you did. Be really careful here, because if you're using a team activity, it's really easy to talk about we did this and we did that, but what they want to know is what you contributed to that team environment. So make sure when you're talking about the action, you're talking about how you contributed. The result or the outcome is super important. They want to know what happened as a result of that. Were changes made? Were Were certificates granted? What kind of feedback did you get? Those kind of things really add to the quality of your answer. But as I said before, these type of answers are really hard to come up with on the spot. So what you've got to do is really do some preparation. What you've got to do is you've got to go and find those skills that come up in the job ads a lot. So I often say to people, go and find 10 job ads, highlight all the skills that come up in those job ads and start to cluster them. So if it's written communication, verbal communication, communicating with others, those type of phrases, they can probably go in one category. You might have another one that might be teamwork, and another skill might be collaboration. You can kind of put those two together. So get the skills that you're finding in these job ads. Once you've got the skills, what I want you to do is start to brainstorm examples that you have that demonstrates those skills. So start to think about a time when you've worked in a team environment. Start to think about some times when you've given some presentations through, it might be, through your course or through student societies. Start to think about a time when you've tackled a problem and you've come up with a creative solution, for example. These are just some examples. So what I want you to do is really brainstorm these examples. They can come from your university. They can come from internships. They can come from part-time casual work. They can come from involvement in student societies. They can come from extracurricular activities that have really given you an opportunity to demonstrate these skills. So you get these examples, and then what you do is you take, for each skill, you take maybe 2 examples and you write a star example using those 2 examples that you've got. So you've got the fact that if you take this, for example, the organization wants communication skills. You've gone and thought about 2 times when you've used your written communication skills and you've written a star answer that really outlines that for you. And what you then do prior to interview is you go over these examples and you practice using them. If you've got a friend or someone in the course, you can practice with each other. If there's no one available for you to practice with, what you can do is you can write on a piece of paper the particular questions, write some behavioral-based questions for yourself, put them in a hat, randomly pull one out, answer it, and record yourself on your phone, and then look back. Look back and think, did I really answer that question? Did I really provide enough information that people understood the situation I was talking about? How did I go with the result? Did you really kind of sum up and put some good opportunities to promote yourself in the results section? So you need to do that, and you need to add to those as you get more examples. These are some other questions that sometimes come up that's also worth practicing. Tell me about a time when you encountered a problem at work. What did you do? What steps would you take to solve the problem? What skills can you bring to this organization? Again, the more practice you do and the more research you do, the more able you are to understand the particular skills that organization or industry is looking for, and really kind of tailor your answer. They might ask you if you've got any questions for them. And here's some examples. Again, go through their documentation and see what questions you have naturally as you're reading that, and then see if you can turn those into questions. There's a range there to get you started. Sometimes students say, I had these great questions, but they answered them all. And that's fine. Just say to them, look, thanks for answering my questions. I actually came along wanting to know more about this and this, but through the course of the interview, you've answered them for me already. So thank you. Building your personal brand. So ultimately, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And once you start going for careers, starting your careers, going down your career journey, once you start networking with people, you want to really start to think about what your brand is. Ultimately, your brand is your skills and qualifications, your visual cues, your strengths and experience, behavioral cues. So what kind of outfits do you wear to interviews? What kind of, how do you hold yourself in a meeting? What kind of strengths have you got and how do you explain that to people? Those kind of things start to build together to give you a sense of a personal brand. And a lot of people think, oh, I don't really know where to start. So start here. What I want you to do is think about your closest friends and family members. And how do you think they would describe you? If you ask them, how would you describe me in 3 words? What do you think they'd say? What I want you to do now is have a think about that and write down the 3 words that you think people might say. Okay. Now what I want you to do is think about, in a professional environment, what 3 words do you want people to use to describe you? You might need to come back to this later. Sometimes you need to think about it for a couple of days till you get the 3 words you're happy with, but have a start now. In a professional environment, what 3 words do you want people to use to describe you? Okay. Interestingly, you might at the end of this session want to share some of your words with each other, but think about are there any differences between what your friends and family members would use to describe you and how you want to be described? And that can sometimes be an interesting reflection activity. And then think of the 3 words you've chosen, what can you do throughout your through your behavior, your interactions with others, your applications, your conversations? What can you do to make sure that people get a sense of who you are in order to describe you using those 3 words? Because what that's going to do is that's going to help in how you might approach your resume, how you might set out your LinkedIn profile, what overarching statement you might put on some of your documentation to give people a sense of who you are and what you stand for. So these are your those 3 words get you thinking, but ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to start to write a personal brand statement of about 2 to 3 sentences that kind of gives other people a sense of who you are, why you're different, what you're aiming to achieve. What is it about you in 2 or 3 sentences? Have a little bit of a go starting to think about that. Again, you're not going to get this to a point today that you're probably, totally happy with, but at least get a start on it. Okay. As I said before, take control of your brand. It's what's going to give you career focus and intention, and start to look at ways to really reflect the way you want your brand to be interpreted by other people. LinkedIn can be a great way to start, like I said before, to start to put that within your LinkedIn profile. But LinkedIn is another opportunity for you to connect with people. It's not compulsory, but it is a great networking tool. There are lots of jobs posted on LinkedIn that are worth, accessing. It's a great way for employers to find you. Some people will actually put their LinkedIn link into their resume so that people can go and find extra information about them in the application process. Sometimes an employer is just going to look for your LinkedIn profile anyway. So there's a couple of things to think about in this situation. One, you might be applying for a number of different roles in different industries and different areas. While you can adapt your application, your written applications, you can't go changing your LinkedIn profile every day, depending on the job you're applying for. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile, if you're applying for a lot of different roles, is generic enough to incorporate all of those. And people aren't going to then look at an application that says you've got a really strong desire to work in one particular role, go into your LinkedIn profile and find that that says something totally different. Make sure there's some synergy there. You can follow organizations. I always say to people, connect with everyone in your course. It might not be particularly important at this point in time, but at least 2 or 3 years down the track, when everyone's working in different roles, often a company will have an internal job and employees are allowed to promote it through LinkedIn. And so you guys can share those opportunities with each other. A lot of organizations also have employee reward systems. So if you were to recommend someone for a job within your organization and they get the job, you might get $2,000 as a reward from your organization, because their feeling is employees know what the values and the culture is like. So they're more likely to recommend people who they think will be a good fit. Again, you can share that information with your LinkedIn groups and networks and use that as an opportunity to connect with your peers. So again, if you're connected through LinkedIn, you've got that opportunity from now on to maintain those contacts and that information and share a whole range of information together as well. If you do go into LinkedIn, make sure that you actively maintain your status or your information. You can share updates. You can get recommendations or endorsements from other people. You don't have to, but you can. Sometimes people might go and do a bit of research, or there might be a conference they're helping to organize, and they might put some information on LinkedIn about that as well. Ultimately, though, it is really good to actually go on and comment on other people's posts in a positive and constructive manner, because it can be a way for other people to see you. So, for example, there was a student recently, and he was going on to some posts and thanking employers for sharing the information, saying it was relevant to his studies. He appreciated the information, and maybe a follow-up, a statement about something he'd learned from the article. And somebody actually contacted him and said, look, I see you like a lot of our posts and you've made a lot of comments on, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind catching up. And so they caught up for coffee, and the employer ended up offering him a role, because he'd already shown that he had an active interest in that organization, and that was able to kind of connect the two together and start the conversations. So LinkedIn can give you some creative opportunities like that. Make sure you really think about the people that you want to connect with. They say here, have a spring clean. So make sure that your connections are relevant. Sometimes people sneak through who you might not necessarily know. Sometimes people in particular sales roles try and connect with a range of people to build their database. So in this instance, it's probably more about quality than quantity. When you're starting, you're wanting to connect with people that you think might have some kind of connection, rather than just trying to be the first person in the group to get 500 connections, for example. So this is a way that you can share content, you can share information. It's also a good opportunity to join some groups through LinkedIn. The reason this is a good opportunity is it does give you insight into what some people are talking about in different organizations or industries. It gives you some key themes, might give you an opportunity for some current events that are going on. And again, gives you something to talk about in interview, something to add to your cover letter or your resume to show that you're staying current with that group and that you do have that interest. I've got a link at the end as well, but a really good tool is the LinkedIn alumni tool. It lets you go in and you can actually find Macquarie alumni, and you can sort them by where they live, what state they're in, what industries they work in, what job titles they have, and you can really kind of narrow it down. And then at the end, LinkedIn will give you names of people who meet your search criteria who are Macquarie alumni. The reason this is really good is that Macquarie alumni are particularly good at supporting the graduates coming through. And during COVID, we actually reached out to quite a few of them and asked if they wouldn't mind, helping deliver some sessions or networking with students, touching base, helping students out in a range of activities and events where they could. And the vast majority were really keen. And at the end, it was a really common theme that they were saying to the students, reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn, let me know if I could help. So when you do try and link in with these people, make sure you really customize your message. Don't send the general, I just want to link in. Really say that you're a current student at Macquarie, the types of roles, I'm interested in a role similar to yours, was wondering if I could link in. Or you might, once you've linked in, you might ask if you could have a quick career chat with them. Over Zoom, it's easy now to connect with people. Keep it short. You might say, can I, 5 to 15 minutes, something around there. Can we link in? I'd really like to know more about how you got your first job, or what you do on a daily basis in your role, or learn a little bit more about your organization. And you'll actually find, hang in there. Some people are busy and they might not get back to you straight away, but there are a lot of alumni out there who will be willing to help you. What I've put together here is a whole range of online tools. You may or may not need them. One's called the MyMQ Career Zone. So this is a website that's free for you to access, but you need to log on with your Macquarie ID. And there's a whole range of information there in relation to resources, career templates for resumes, interview skills practice, questions, you name, industry profiles. It's full of information. You can actually get lost in this site. There's so much information. But if you're after particular, like I said, background information, or you want to know more about a particular skill, you think you want to really develop another skill because the job ads are asking a lot for this skill and you're not really sure what to do with it, this is a great place to start. This site also has a section on it called CV 360. And what this involves is it's almost like the artificial intelligence system that a lot of employers use as part of the initial resume screening process. So you can actually upload your resume or CV, same thing. You can upload it into this site and it will produce a report for you. It'll give you a score out of 100, and ideally you're wanting to get something above 80. And it will give you a report of things that you can change. It picks up spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, which is fantastic because when you read your resume over and over and over, your brain automatically corrects things. So this can pick up those mistakes for you. Keep in mind that this is designed for a generic resume. It can't pick up the tailoring that you need to do for a particular role. So by that, I mean, making sure you've got the 5 skills that really match that job you're applying for, because this system doesn't know what that job might be. But as far as an initial check and initial feedback system, I really recommend that you use this, and you can use it as often as you like. So as you can see there, this person got a score out of 100 out of 100 for their resume. Sometimes it can take a lot of work to get it to there. And sometimes you don't need to be exactly at 100 because some of the things it's asking you to do may not be relevant to the job you're applying for. But it does give you that feedback. And it does, like I said, it does enable you to print a report as well. Another really good site is the Employability Connect site. And if you go into here, you can see there's a careers section here and an MQ student employment section. So as I mentioned earlier, Macquarie Uni has Macquarie Student Employment. So that site there will let you tap into their resources and work out how to access their programs and get on their books so that you can access those jobs if you want to. And the careers page will actually link you to a whole range of resources. You've got the ability to book individual consultations. There's workshops that you can attend that employers run. There's career events. There's resume workshops. There's a whole range of things. Again, these are available to you up to 18 months after you've graduated. So you can use all this information as you're going through your early career journey. There's also a section down the bottom there, employability and skills development. So if you're looking to develop your skills further, or while you're looking for work and you really say, look, I've got some time to allocate. I've got my exams done. I can probably allocate 2 or 3 hours a week to developing my skills further. That site can help you go through and look at some things that you might want to look at. So these are some skills there, that the initial categories. It's got some resources. It's got some LinkedIn learning activities that you can do. And again, while you're a student, you can log into LinkedIn Learning through the library, use your Macquarie ID, and then all the LinkedIn Learning training is free. And there's so much stuff on there. There's courses on developing your leadership skills, Excel skills, teamwork, you name it, you could probably find something on there. It's huge. Often once you've completed a course, you can get a badge that goes onto your LinkedIn profile to say that you've done it. In a lot of instances, you don't need a certificate or anything like that. It's just your ability to then talk about the skills and the learning that you've gone through with an employer. That's the advantage. It gives you an opportunity to practice and things like that. So again, while you've still got access to that, if you've got some time on your hands after your exams, it's a good way to keep developing. So this is the question that I leave you with. How will you stand out from the crowd? What are you going to do differently? Or how are you going to promote yourself so that the employer really sees the skills and value that you can offer? This is a summary of some of those online resources and things that I was telling you about. You can also get connected with the careers service through a LinkedIn and Facebook groups where you can get updates of jobs and things like that. So that's all accessed through these pages. And this is the links to the LinkedIn alumni tool that I was talking about before. Rock Your LinkedIn Profile is a really good learning program to give you ideas as to how to make the most out of your LinkedIn profile. And there's the link to the career and employment service if you'd like to start to tap into some other workshops, or you just really want to contact someone and get some help and find out where you're going wrong, or get some feedback. So that's the end of the session today. I know it's a lot of information. It's really quite high level. The aim is really just to point out some things to think about and some things to help you really kind of take note of, to help in the transition to finding those jobs that are meaningful and relevant to where you want to continue on your career journey. Reach out for help at any time if you need it. Otherwise, all the best. Good luck, and let us know how you go.